There are only two things you need to do in life. That's it. Two. And when I say two things you need to do, I mean two things to focus on. So the first thing to focus on is, and you don't even really need two, you just need one, but I'm giving you two because you've got a backup. The only thing you really need to do in life is get in touch with your truest, most innermost self. I was working with a client yesterday, and we were really getting down into this and talking about it. And I said to him, there's only two things you need to do and focus on. Number one, get in touch with your truest, innermost self. Feel the truth of who you are. And, spiritual sages and masters have talked about this for thousands of years as being the number one most important thing we can do. And so that can be easier, that can be hard. Regardless, you should spend time with that as the most important thing you can do in life. Now, for most people, that's very difficult. They do it, they don't feel much, and they get sort of stuck, they get frustrated, etc. So that's why I'm giving you a number two. Number two, be with the reaction or the thing that says you are not that piece. So what does that mean? So let's say you're trying to get in touch with your truest self and you're having trouble and you get frustrated. Be with the frustration. That frustration is a part. It is an artificial sort of a fragment of yourself that got broken off in early childhood. And you want to learn how to sit with that part in the way that a loving parent might. And as you do this, you will start to, the reason this is easier in some ways is because you can grab onto it. The emotion that you're feeling is there and you can kind of feel it. And so it's just you have more real estate to grab onto, so to speak. Okay, now why do I say these are the only two things you need to do? Because obviously in your life, you need to pay taxes and go work and do all the things and exercise and eat food. But if you notice, I said there's only two things you need to focus on. If you focus on these two things exclusively, only, you will find that all these other things will take care of themselves or will get done in the process of focusing on these other things. So in other words, you will still go to work. And while you're at work, you will be focusing on, while you're driving to work, you'll be focusing on, can I touch my deepest, truest essence? Can I get in touch with who I really am, what I really am? Can I feel that inner joy inside of me? No, I can't. What am I feeling? Right? So you always have access to both of these or one of these, right? So if I'm not feeling that bliss, that truth of who I am, then I'm feeling something else. And that something else is false. And that something else is something to sit with and see through. And the notion that you don't have time while you're working to sit with this part that is activated is coming from a part. It says, I don't have time. I can't do that. I'm busy doing this. I get distracted. Blah, blah, blah. Excuse, excuse, excuse. That phrase that comes into your head that says, I can't do this, if it's not God talking to you, then it's the other thing. Does that make sense? If it's not God, it's a part. And if it's a part, it's not telling you the truth. And it needs your support, it needs your help. So these are the two things. Just focus on these two things and let the rest of your life go. Because, so I'll just give you an example, right? Because I want you to get into this and have this to start working for you. So you're working on a project and you feel frustrated. You feel terrified that you're not going to do a good job. Okay, it's more important to focus on the fear and the terror than it is on doing the job. Doing the job will be this kind of thing that you're trying to do to solve the fear. But if you're dealing with the fear as you're working, you're going to be working less afraid. That's why I say there's only two things to focus on, right? One, be in that bliss, in that flow. Let's say you're working and it's flowing fine, everything's flowing, that's fine. Be there, just be in that space. If it's not, be with the reaction, be with the thing that's saying this is not going well. I'm scared, this is not working, right? And as you do that, you will find that you will work better. Okay, so that's kind of it. I've said it kind of 6 different ways, or one way 6 times. But so hopefully you could take that and use that and start implementing that. And the point of this is ultimately, and not to be self-serving, but take this stuff that you're learning in all these workshops and everything and make it your way of life. Now, there could be other things that you could find that you could make your way of life. Let's say you studied Buddhism, that would be fine. And that's great. If you want to switch over to Buddhism, great. Make that your way of life. Use that as your focal point. But since you're here and since the things that I've been saying make some kind of sense to you, it's perfectly okay and fine to use this as your path, as your spiritual path, as your way of life. I'm not trying to, get into your mind and make you drink Kool-Aid and do anything like that. We're only here to help you discover your truest self and get in touch with that and express that in the world. That's the only thing that we're doing here. And this, as a path, contains everything you need, not just to be successful in the world, but also to be really fully enlightened. In other words, to access every aspect of yourself that is true and to live that. That's all here. And so what I'm saying to you is this way of just focusing on these 2 things is all in alignment. We talk about a lot of different things here, and you can use all of that, but it all boils down to these 2 things. So use everything you're learning here and do it nonstop, because that's how I changed and how I shifted. When I did Byron Katie, I just did Byron Katie all day, and that led me to another level of awakening, right? And now I'm doing this, and I do it all day. I'm constantly aware of what's happening inside of me, and being with that. And as I do that, it shifts and it brings me back to this place. And the more I do it, the more I get in touch with who I truly am. And then something comes along and knocks me off of that, and that's good and that's fine, because now I can be with that. And as I'm being with that, it brings me back to the first one. It brings me back into this peaceful, serene place, because I'm seeing through the illusion. Okay, I think I've said too much. I'm gonna stop talking now and just go out and try this and let me know how it's working for you. Cheers. Look, peace. Do the 2 things and it will bring you peace. Bam.